Can you hear me?
Oh, loud and clear.
Awesome. Well, I know the audio was a concern.
Yeah, apparently. Headphones are requested for the recordings.
Right. So you're recovering from PSU?
Oh, man. Jeez. Yes.
Come back to twice the work?
Yes, I'm finally back to being somewhat normal, I guess.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Yeah, same.
Shay, are you present?
Yes. Whew. I didn't know it was going to be like this.
Oh yeah, man. Your first meeting.
Yeah. We get the old camera going here.
Oh, look, he's even got that PSU mug going on over there for the cup
Wow.
with a banana for scale. Oh, is this your new fancy office?
Oh yeah, look at this.
Whoa, you even get a view.
Window.
Hey, buddy. Look at you.
Yeah. I'm the pride of IT apparently.
The pride. Wait, are those all your conference lanyards behind you?
Oh yeah.
Nice. Oh, I guess we have somebody new. Hi, Tommy. Welcome. Looks like Garrett's here too.
Do we have Kavya on?
I guess not, but it looks like the meeting is recording, so I guess that's all good. Let's see here. I guess we'll wait a couple more minutes, see if anybody else joins. Garrett, do you have that lovely ability to do an @ here in Slack?
Do you know if that's blocked on the community one?
I'm looking. Let's see here.
I feel like you've done that in there.
@ here is disabled. I think Kavya was the one that's done it before. Man, I really enjoyed that new one-click approval to open a Zoom meeting after their lovely vulnerability.
It's funny. I basically had not used Zoom at all. And this week I've been involved. This is the third like separate party Zoom meeting that I've had. I'm like, wow, this is definitely the hot new thing.
Oh yeah, man. You better believe it. Better than that Google Meet stuff. No, I don't even know. That's what we use at work. But
We use Skype, so I'll take anything else.
Skype. Actually, I was looking over an auto package import the other day, and I was like, why do we have Skype in auto package? And nobody could answer. I'm like, I guess we added it as like a test app like 4 years ago and just like never removed it. Alrighty, well, I guess we can get started. All right, I guess I'll go first. We'll do some introductions. At least that's what I have on my little notepad thingy here, in case anyone's new. So I'm Wes. I do client operations at Square. We use Salt on all the macOS endpoints, as well as the Windows and Linux ones. Been using Salt for 2 years now, I think. And I am your current macOS workgroup captain. Please provide feedback on a receipt somewhere at a bar when we meet up. So that's me. Brian, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. Looks like we lost Shay.
Oh, yeah, apparently his machine KP'd. Oh, lovely.
My name is Brian Lasham. I do device management for Target. Currently just using Salt as a POC to see what we can do with it for Mac and also for Windows endpoints. So far, so good.
Nice. Gareth, you around, buddy? He's here twice.
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear now.
Okay. Yeah, so I had some Zoom difficulties this morning. I'm sitting outside the coffee shop at the moment.
Nice.
So extreme remoting today. So yeah, I'm Gareth. I'm one of the developers on the core team. I have been tasked and kind of taking on a lot of the Mac related issues lately, particularly getting our automated tests working. I don't know if anyone's paid attention to our Jenkins system lately, but we're getting very, very close to having all green across the 3 supported Mac versions that we support on both 2019.2.1 and Neon, which is the upcoming release. And that's using Kitchen Salt, which is the same test system that we use on the other operating systems. So that has been a huge labor of mine the last few months. That's where I've been at lately.
You're doing good work there, buddy.
Yeah,
Much appreciated from everyone
work,
here.
But important work. Yeah. Challenging work for sure.
Well, Shay, we're doing introductions since your machine decided to kernel panic.
Yeah, that's something special there. Just right as you were saying. At least it's better than that Google Hangouts, and it actually went Google and then it just turned off. So I don't know if that's some kind of thing that you actually did. It's like the secret vocal passcode to my laptop or what?
Yeah, apparently it only works on one computer.
Cool. Well, yeah. Hi, Shay Craig. I work at SAS. It's a software company. I missed everybody else's introduction, so I don't really know. What are we used for? What's our favorite food?
Yeah, sure. Something like that. But yeah, well, welcome, Shay. Shay's first meeting, as this is our second one. Something. Do you decided to skip out on us to go to like some anniversary thing with your wife? Yeah. Weird. And Tommy, are you just listening or talking, or welcome, because you're definitely new. Yes, no, maybe so. Okie dokie. Well, let us know if you want to say something eventually. All right, so basically the only thing I really had planned is we can go over any current open issues for macOS, especially if anyone really wants to talk about them. I only have two currently that are we should probably take a look at sooner than later. And then I have a bullet point for anything we would like to work on, any new features we would like to see in Salt on macOS. And then it looks like briefly chat about SaltConf, and if anyone is planning on attending. So let's see here. I don't know if anybody's seen, but I decided to break the command.run module on macOS when doing run as user on 2018 3.4, I think, is when that changed. So I changed it so it could actually load launch agents correctly, or at least list them properly when running from root. It turns out that whenever you use su-l username -c and then the command you want to run, apparently it just totally drops the environment variables and like all the path stuff. And that's breaking a bunch of other folks that actually use Salt to run as users, especially with like some Ruby stuff. So if anybody has any ideas, I'm all ears. So we can get both.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding of that, I've done a lot of goofing around with that too for the Yo scheduler. And
Yeah.
also for, I had a need for similar stuff of like forced auto logouts in lab machines, that user context switching. And I mean, I think it's expected that when you switch into that different role, you don't get the bash environment variables or anything coming along with it. I mean, you have to pass all that stuff through.
Yeah, which that's not so easily done. Well, I mean, yes, it's doable, but other than just giving a parameter with a single variable, like a username.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the command.run module, but I imagine you would have to just grab all the environment variables that are present and then do that prior to your actual shelling out.
So can you... Interesting. Okay. So you're saying we could possibly have the code see what grab all the environment variables for the user before running the command, and
So like the Python getenv.
yeah.
You have to know what they all are, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, I guess you would have to.
I don't think you can just, well, I mean, you can shell out to the env command in bash, but I don't know. I mean, bash isn't going to be around forever.
True.
So I don't know if that captures everything. I was also going to say, if you're doing SU to switch user contexts, that's one way to do it. And I'm sure that that has a method for putting environment variables in. I think we'll probably also have to look at the man page for launch control, because I've always ended up doing that as a launch control as user.
Oh. Okay.
I think that's what Chilcote does for Outset, for example. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong.
So I think there was...
Actually, maybe it was Eric Gomez. When he was explaining to me how I was doing it wrong for the Yo notifications from MDM agent scripting environment where you don't, it's the same thing. The agent's running this command and it doesn't have all the environment variables that it would expect to. It doesn't have the, in this particular case, it was that it didn't have the path. And I know that using launch control as user solves some of those problems. I mean, you still, in this case, would have to probably capture all the environment variables and then hand them over somehow. But I think one of those two approaches could probably do that. And we don't have to like read the man pages right now.
Yeah, I'm like looking over it a little bit. So I know like with -L, that simulates a full login. And it gets rid of the entire environment except for home, shell, path, term, and user.
Mm-hmm.
The path is actually set to just bin and user bin. So, because I know that there's like somebody first reported it because they were trying to do MAS, the Mac App Store command line utility, and that requires being run as a user, and that wasn't working. And then launch agents weren't working, so I fixed it so both of those would work. But you know, then some lovely other issues popped up. But
they're doing the Mac App Store as a salt module that's shelling out to it.
They were just doing command.run to, what is it, MAS?
Okay.
Yeah, GitHub.
So they weren't that far ahead.
Yeah.
Already. Yeah, they weren't into making actual. I mean, so that's the other thing is it's been a while since I've looked at the command.run code for this. I know you and I have talked about this in terms of like some of the other modules, like the preferences module. But you know, there's that sticky issue with the Python subprocess shell parameter as well, right? So you can run a subprocess kind of not in a shell, or you can run it in a shell, and it kind of depends on how much of those shell features you want. I assume that command.run is not using that. I mean, everything in the Python documentation is like, don't do this.
Yeah, so TLDR is it basically just runs su-l username -c and then the command for macOS now.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if we should have a separate option. Or I guess we could.
I mean, do you know that this works with Python? Like, can you use environment variables if you switch user context with subprocess right now? Like, is it a solved issue or is it a Python issue?
It's a feature of like shelling out to SU. It's not a Python issue. So if you did this in Bash, you'd get the same thing. But
So do you know, I mean, let me look. This is always fun, reading man pages live on the mic.
it's basically what the group here is for. So
Yeah.
not like we have anything else better to do. Let me just grab the link to the actual issue and then I'll post it in the chat if everyone wants to take a look.
I mean, so there is this esoteric option, the -m flag. Have you looked at that one for SU?
I have not. Talk to me, Goose. What does it do?
It says leave the environment unmodified. So I don't know if that's that's interesting because it sounds like it would be mutually exclusive with -L.
Where is chat and message here? I put the issue in the chat if anybody wants to take a look.
Oh, it does say that at the end. See, this is reading it live. -L and -M are mutually exclusive. So it sounds like if you use -M, it doesn't do all that stuff that -L does. It just ignores. It uses the same shell as the user that is invoking it. So in this case, I assume it would be root. It doesn't change directories. But other than that, I feel like it would be as a user. So, I think you would probably have to take into account if you're going to shell out and you're expecting the current working directory to be the same. That's not really handled anyway, I guess, if SU is switching to the target login's home directory right now. Everything would, I don't think that would be a problem, but that might be one way to just for free get all the environment to go over.
Yeah, but I bet that if you do -M, it doesn't work like for launch CTO, but I guess we can move that over to using launch CTL as user, since even the new subcommands don't give you the ability to list all the current agents or loaded, all the loaded goodies from launch agents and whatnot.
Well, and this is one of those things. So I think what we might need to do too is just make a little proof of concept Python script that it's like, here are the things that we expect to work, and here's the things that aren't working. Can we make it work with either one of these? It is interesting. Like, I'm looking at the man page for launch CTL, if you'd like to say it that way.
Launch cuddle?
Launch cuddle. Yeah, when you cuddle it. It's interesting because, SU talks about like it switches user, it changes their home directory, it copies this like subset of environment variables over. If you look at the cuddle man page for as user, it sounds a lot better. I don't know if this makes any practical difference, but it says this executes the given command in as similar an execution context as possible to that of the target user's bootstrap. Adopted attributes include the mock bootstrap namespace, exception server, and security audit session. It does not modify the process's credentials or adopt any user-specific environment variables. So I can't tell from that whether it's saying it doesn't import the environment variables of the user you're running it as, or if it doesn't copy over the original environment variables. It's kind of ambiguous the way I see it.
Yeah.
But I know that I've had to do this in the past because the big issue is like, are you in a Cocoa context, or are you running just as a like shell?
Yeah. I'm thinking that we're probably not going to find a one size fits all here, because there's so many different contexts in which you want to just run something as a user. And then also, will it work or not?
It also kind of sounds like if Apple doesn't put that into launch cuddle, that they probably don't want you to do that. So finding a way to do it might get shut down at some point.
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair.
Yeah, who knows how long that's going to be around. I mean, it's been deprecated for like 2 versions now, right?
Oh, is that in the deprecated list?
Is that a way they describe it?
I think the deprecated
legacy
stuff.
subcommands.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's not.
Well, we got rid of load and unload.
So I'm just looking at Stack Overflow too. So there are, as I'm sure you can imagine, people have asked this question before, and there are ways to, in your SU command, like assign environment variables as part of that as a one-liner. So,
interesting.
you
How,
you could like format in all the environment variables.
You can also include them in a launch D, if I remember correctly.
It would be, yeah, it would be the same way, I think. I think it looks, yeah, the one I'm looking at is doing it with sudo first. So that's not exactly. And that's kind of bash specific too. I don't know if it would be different for Z shell. Or we're going to call that zish.
Zish. All right. Vote to call it Zish. Approve. All right. Aye.
Isn't that a Smashing Pumpkins album?
That I do not know. Let's see here. What is... So the guy who opened the issue, Bryce, saying maybe you should use sudo to get the correct path and then use su to switch the user and then set the path correctly and then run the command. Interesting. Different shells.
Well, I mean, if you're going to run, that's the problem. If you're going to run multiple commands in a row, I imagine you have to have that shell flag turned on.
Oh, well, I mean, can you... Oh, I guess I was thinking you would gather the output and then add it into the next command. But... All right, so TLDR on that one, we don't really know. Many possibilities here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. The next one I have on the list is my new favorite topic. That's Catalina and PyObjective-C and multiprocessing. As soon as, so even if you set multiprocessing to false, whenever the minion starts up, the minion is started as a multiprocess, like in a separate process. So from there, that's where the multiprocessing true or false comes into play, and then it does threads versus multiprocessing. If you try and use PyObjective-C in a salt minion at all, it will basically cause a detrimental crash to the entire process tree. So that's fun. And that only happens on Catalina. And it looks like that's a feature. So 2 processes deep on Mojave, or no, 3, it wouldn't work. Now 2 deep on Catalina, it doesn't work. But running salt call via launchd works just fine, as that's just all in one parent process. Basically, the only thing I had a question for or of was, do we care? Do we want to change it? So the salt minion is just one process. Or do we just go with don't use any PyObjective-C code when using an actual minion, which seems to defeat the whole purpose.
Right.
I mean, it's very easy to set up another like launch daemon that just runs salt call on an interval, which is what I might do.
Well, I think that's what you do if you have to.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just like setting up master lists. Like, yeah, you could script it all out, or you could use salt to do it.
Yeah.
Like, my preference would be if we could get it to work so that we can keep using, I mean, really what we're talking about here is the schedule module, right? Like that's what we would be losing. Is there any other advantage to doing it from the minion than just doing a launch D?
So the minion gets you, well, if you're using a master, like it gets you everything, right? Like for instance, you would lose, is it reactors?
Gotcha.
Do those run through a minion, or are they a separate process?
Yes. The reactors are run via the minion. I believe so. Let me double check. Gareth, if you know anything about that and want to chime in, please feel free.
Sorry, just give me 1 second. Just finishing something up here.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Well, and I think while you're digging for that, Wes, I think that it's important to work because like you and I are using it currently primarily for managing Mac's master lists, but you know, like just today on the Slack group, we have people who want to do it with a master, want to try it with a master.
Yeah.
You know, like that just kind of is out the window if the minion can't run.
Well,
I think specifically what you were having the problems with was that you had a grain that had PyObjective-C, right?
Yeah, so that's what was causing the crash right away, is I had a grain that was doing PyObjective-C stuff. And so that was crashing it super early because, right, it gathers grains right away. But as soon as I got rid of all of that and I just had a state that would run some PyObjective-C code, then I could easily notice where it was crashing.
I mean, I wonder, is there any way that, shoot. You know, that's the thing, like we were just kind of talking about a similar issue with the context switching for command.run, but grains are just, I'm sure, just getting run. Like it's not like you could essentially shell that out so that it's safe, it's being not run as a multi-process, and then just get the results back. That's an actual Python module that's getting imported and run. I assume it's getting imported.
I think you lost me.
Well, so I mean, say that you really need to have a PyObjective-C grain.
Sure.
Is it possible to write the grain in such a way that maybe we would need to write a state or a execution module that would do this, but that would, without using multiprocess, shell out, run the grain, actual grain code, and then get the results back so that it's not going to crash PyObjective-C. So you're not importing PyObjective-C from the minion.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess if you shelled out to PyObjective-C, you kind of lose the whole nicety of it being native, but
Yeah.
and not having to shell out to get those results. But I think so. It doesn't matter where the PyObjective-C code is. It'll crash the minion. So it can be
Yeah.
in a grain, it can be in a state, it can be in.
Well, I was just thinking about grains because those are going to run no matter what during a high state. They're going to be run before anything else. You know, like that's kind of the earliest chance it gets to blow up.
Yeah. Let me see if I can actually find where.
You have an open issue on this, right? Do you wanna
No, I haven't.
oh, okay.
I have not posted that yet.
Busted.
Busted. Yep, I'm a terrible captain. Sorry, y'all. I'll try and get to that this week.
He hasn't even made his bed yet.
Dude, how did you know?
It looks like your quilt hanging off the edge of the loft there.
Yes, they're. Yeah, it's a weighted blanket.
Oh baby.
Oh yeah, they're the best. Highly recommended. Where is this the correct? No, this is not the right. All right, so I think that so yeah, I think we would probably have to we would definitely have to adjust how the actual minion runs on macOS and just macOS. Clearly. Where is it? Salt scripts. Sorry, I'm trying to track down where I previously looked at this.
Yeah, I'm curious if during a minion run, if it's communicating over that 0MQ bus while it's running and something's going out of whack, because if salt call works, but a minion doesn't work, like what's the difference there?
So the minion is run in a multi-process fashion where salt call isn't. That's the primary difference. And then that's where PyObjective-C gets kind of cranky. But
Have you seen that code?
yeah, I'm looking for it right now.
I mean, is it possible, do you think, just kind of top level, like if the platform is Mac OS? Because this happens before reading the minion config, right?
Yeah, by the looks of things.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a way to peep into that first and see if multiprocessing is set. And also, I wonder if you can detect the platform, and if it is Mac OS, instead of using multiprocessing to start up the various processes. If you could use launch cuddle start
All right,
to spin up a thread.
here is the function that where it starts the multiprocessing for the minion.
Oh, baby.
Coming at you, coming in live.
Oh, I'm clicking on it so hard.
Get it.
Ooh. Salt minion. I mean, there's already some conditional stuff in there for Windows, it looks like.
Yeah. Salt CLI daemons.minions. What is? So I guess we.
So it says start the salt minion in a sub process.
Yeah. So I guess it can. I guess so. It can have greater control over it, especially if it crashes. But I mean, that's kind of what LaunchD does, right?
I mean, it looks like line 230, that try loop there. You could have a conditional to not do.
Oh, yeah.
Like
If
where-
you look at
where-
the
where it says-
exception block, it actually
Yeah.
says if multiprocessing doesn't work.
Oh. See, this is why we do this, guys. This is why. Wait, so that's just what is salt CLI daemons.minion?
It looks like a class. I mean, I don't know where the code is.
So salt CLI daemon to the code. Poor Shay, Colonel panicked again.
It looks like he's just studying really hard. Oh no, he's gone. I mean, if we couldn't fix the multiprocessing, we could at least allow to avoid it in that block at least.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if we just do if macOS
You don't want to get a job and have
just like do the same thing that Windows is doing, because that's pretty much what that accept block is. Basically the same thing as the Windows check up top.
Oh, you're right.
Salt CLI daemons minions. Where was I looking at code?
So just changing if Salt Utils platform is Windows or Mac would do it.
I think so. Where I am in the Salt CLI daemons mixin. Where is my minion? Class minion. Here we go. Create a minion server. This is good. I like this.
What'd I miss?
So basically, we think that, so you know there's that Windows check at the beginning of that block.
Mhm.
We might be able to do the same thing with on macOS. So just start the minion. Don't do the multiprocessing.
Yeah, it's interesting because if it throws any exception, it should then fall back to the same thing that the Windows one's doing, though, right? I mean, I haven't traced down
Yeah.
through that.
Yep. Nope. That's exactly what I said while you were out.
I mean,
because I think that processing start minion process test rate. Yeah, it's just doing the same thing. One's inside of a multi-process, and then the other one's in the parent. I think this might be the move. And then I guess my only question, would it be salty to, well, I mean, Windows is doing it, to read in a config file here? Like check the config file for multiprocessing. If not, well, yeah, we should be able to do that because that's just I think that's just a utility or an execution module. So technically you could run that. It's no different than doing the platform.isWindows. I guess that would be,
wouldn't the minion already be doing that?
well, the minion's not running yet.
Right,
Are
but
you
there's
looking at, sorry, this is Gareth real quick. Are you looking to see if multiprocessing is enabled or just capable?
We are checking. So right now in the minion config, you can do multiprocessing true or false.
Right.
Except that config would be a that controls like a third layer of multiprocessing because the minion is already in a multiprocess state, if that makes sense. When it checks that config, and that's breaking. Basically on Catalina, it's getting real cranky, or the system is about like how many parent processes deep from launchd when doing like Objective-C code that is causing issues. So it looks like we're just trying to get rid of the whole multiprocessing bit and like not make it configurable, if that makes sense.
Okay, so this would be beyond that option that ends up in ops.
Yeah, so what I was thinking is if you do set multiprocessing to false, like great, then don't do it period anywhere. But if you do have it set to true, then you can continue to operate the minion like it currently works today.
I think probably Gareth, if you missed it too, Wes put in the chat link to the script where it starts up the minion. You can see that multiprocessing starts. Wes, I was going to say, I'm looking at, if you look at line 197, that's the Windows check.
Yeah.
So it creates a minion off of that daemons subpackage. It starts it, and then the function returns. If you look later in that try except block, starting in a while loop on 229.
Yeah, it just breaks out.
So the way it would run now is it would hit this while loop, and it's going to run infinitely. It's going to try and start it up in multiprocess no matter what. Eventually, that minion is going to run a scheduled high state or something that's got PyObjective-C and crash. Then the exception block's going to get run, and it's going to start the minion up the same way it was in Windows, but it doesn't return from there. It just breaks. And so it's going to go right back into the next execution of that while loop, and it's going to try multiprocess again.
So you are like 95% correct. But instead of it staying in the while loop,
Is the break jump out of while loops?
Well, no, the PyObjective-C code crashes the whole stack.
So
So
the
it
whole this
breaks
just
out of
dies.
everything. Yeah, the whole thing just dies.
So Python doesn't even catch that because it's not an exception. It's just like a stack
Yep.
trace.
Yep.
Can you put except shits the bed?
Wait, is that a module?
Yeah. Can I say it on here? This is being recorded.
It's being recorded, but
That's a technical term.
yeah, sure.
Well, then maybe that's it. Maybe that's the test. Is like, can we just modify this just to see if it works on Catalina?
Yeah.
If we just add in that, I mean, just to test it, you could just change 197 to read if true. See what happens.
Oh yeah, if macOS.
Well, or just if true. I mean, we just want to know if it's going to work at all.
True. That makes sense. I can give that a look this week. Because that's pretty much outside of like DEP stuff, getting Catalina ready is on me to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, you're running masterless as well, right?
Yes.
Okay, Shay, you're masterless.
Yeah, it's kind of one-sided.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't know what Tommy Chong's running, but
yeah, I hope he's enjoying the conversation. Thanks for joining. Yeah, actually, that might be the ticket.
Just see what it does. I mean, that would be an easy thing to change.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it's not going to like blow itself away. Reinstalling salt on top of it and fixing that little edit.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm surprised that Python dies so hard that it doesn't even throw an exception.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I've tried putting just that PyObjective-C code in its own like try, and yeah, it doesn't even catch it there. It's real bad.
Real bad.
Which is very entertaining.
I'm wondering.
And is this both versions, like 2 and 3, or are you that you're seeing?
Yeah, this is.
Yeah, I use 3. And Wes is still stuck in the dark ages. Am I right?
I'm trying, man. I'm trying, but actually, I've been testing all this on Pi 3 to be honest.
Oh, good.
Trying to be one of those cool kids. Gareth, if you're actually around, is Neon like officially branched to the point where this is all moot and it doesn't even matter what we do now?
Neon is branched. Yeah, I mean, I guess. Well, I mean, so I apologize. I was bringing my dog back from the groomer, so I was only partially paying attention.
No worries, bud.
What moot?
Well, no, I guess this would be a bug fix. So this isn't really a feature. So I guess we could slide that in there. I'm basically, if we fix this, can we get it into Neon?
I would say yeah. I mean, we're still in bug fixing mode, and as far as Neon, and if this is, and it sounds like if it's a bug that prevents the minion from even running on the Catalina release, then yeah, it should definitely be able to get it into Neon.
Okay, cool.
Assuming it doesn't break any tests.
Yeah. Which I can try that out this week. So that should be fun.
I mean, based on just what I was listening to, kind of in the background there, the having stuff run differently based on OS detection is nothing new. I mean, that's all over the code base currently. So that's like definitely like the approach.
I wonder, like, clearly looking at the code, the preference is to use multiprocessing. I wonder if we're giving anything up by resigning to using the Windows method.
There would be a few things that you would give up, but I don't know how extensively they would be running. People would be running them currently on macOS. So like one big thing off the top of my head would be like proxy minions. For like interacting with switches, primarily through master anyway. So
yeah, and I would really hope nobody runs a Mac as a proxy minion. I mean, sweet mercy, I hope not.
You never know. People do some weird stuff out there.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like we're all kind of doing masterless. So, I think priority is obviously just making it work, but
yeah, I think that might be the move. I think we can treat this as just do the same thing as Windows and see if that
well, if that fixes it, that at least gives us an idea of what's breaking. Like, I was just looking at the multiprocessing module documentation, and it seems really strange to me that, like Python's trying to call PyObjective-C, it freaks out, but it just dies a horrible death and can't recover from that. Like, I feel like if it dies, there should be some way to recover from that, short of just having to restart the process entirely.
Yeah, I think this is definitely just like more Mac OS than it is Python, because I think this is just the system being like, okay, whatever you just tried to do was like a big no-no, and
well,
it's just like you've lost your privileges for this current process.
Here's another crazy idea. The problem here is that multiprocessing is trying to call PyObjective-C, and it dies, and it can't recover from that. But what if you, instead of saying, is Mac OS, just do the things the Windows way, is it possible to say, you know what, let's do multiprocessing a different way? What if we call it via, you could use like NS run loop and call it from Swift.
So
shelled out from Python.
Funny enough, NS run loop, that's what's causing auto damage to break. That doesn't work in Catalina either.
Well, I haven't looked at that for a while. So is it just because they're like, don't use this anymore, use UN user run loop or some newer framework?
Not sure. I got dragged into the auto damage issue because Mosen said that like Wes is having issues with PyObjective-C on Catalina too, whenever you're in a multi-process state.
Okay. Well, I think the gist of it that I'm getting is we need to see if this works one way or the other.
Oh, absolutely.
And if that is the breaking point, then we can start exploring the options of maybe there's something we can do with multiprocessing module or getting a newer, like we're still pretty out of date in Salt with the multiprocessing module. Have you tried the like Python 3.7 multiprocessing module?
No, because.
So you're using the 3.5?
Yeah, Salt's still 3.5.
Right.
I'm assuming Neon would be 3.7. Gareth? Is that true?
I think for Python version, we're shooting for 3.6.
Okay.
3.6.
So, that's at least a couple few years old, the 3.5. So it's possible that multiprocessing would handle the threading better, and that they've patched some bugs since then. And, we may also be able to investigate that Cocoa approach, like using Swift scripting, like literally shell out to Swift or something. Creative, that we don't have to know the answer now. I think we just need to figure out if it is that point in the code.
Yeah, I guess for me is, just getting it to work in its current fashion with just a simple tweak would be lovely.
Just to throw one more idea out here, and then I have to go to another meeting.
Sure.
Multiprocessing isn't the only way of doing Python concurrency. Maybe there are other, we just are like, if it's macOS, don't use multiprocessing, use, concurrent futures or something like that. I'm not good at that stuff. I just hear those words all the time. I'm like, that sounds amazing. I'm just setting the damn wallpaper on people's machines. I don't need to know all that stuff, but I know that it's out there, right? So concurrency in Python is like the big issue because everybody complains like, oh, well, Go has real concurrency and Python doesn't. So I know that is one of the big features of Python 3.4 maybe is when they started looking into it, and it's gotten a lot more mature in like 3.7.
So watching this talk on Python concurrency that was done in June of 2009 probably isn't the best idea.
No, probably not.
I don't. I'm starting to think that any type of concurrency is just going to get you a big middle finger from the operating system at this point.
Well, unless you use the operating systems framework for doing it.
Oh, well, yeah. Hey, look at you. Which would be LaunchD, right?
Or like this, like Objective-C or C libraries, like NSRunLoop or whatever it is.
Yeah, true.
But I mean, I guess LaunchD is like the first process, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, we're definitely out of time, and I know I've got to get into the office.
Yeah, I got to run.
Does closing remarks, anybody? I'll type up these notes and put them on the community page. If not, I guess we'll meet again soon. Well, thanks everybody. It was good chatting. I think we made some
nice seeing you
progress.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
And enjoy. Yeah.
You guys.
Bye.